Anyways, so Greg told me I was fired because I forgot to record last week. So I apologize for that. But I'm going to touch on just a couple of points from last week too, because I want you to get that. And the fact is that what she had mentioned earlier, what Jordan had mentioned, is the fact that this is open to anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if a person's 21 or if they're 61. Any single person, they have absolutely no clue what their potential is and what their life is. And the reality is we all know this. That's why I've titled this whole theme of this thing Reminders, because I'm not telling you something that deep down inside you don't already know. The problem is there's so many distractions in life. We have to be reminded. So it's like another book to add on to your reading list, because I always throw out books out there. So currently I'm reading the Tibetan book on living and dying, which was recommended by Wayne Dyer, one of my absolute favorite authors. So, he really talks about the context of the fact that most people, you understand this. I really, really want somebody on this phone call to embrace this, that most people are living corpses. You understand that? Most people are living corpses. So they just get up, they go to the routine, they go to work, they make their money. Everybody has goals. We all have goals. The goal could be to eat. The goal could be to pay the rent. The goal could be to be able to maybe save up a little bit of money. I did what I felt was a phenomenal talk about cash reserves, the ability to build up cash reserves and the importance of building cash reserves, because no matter what happens, 95% of people, and this has been this way for decades, literally live check to check. They don't build up cash reserves. So as a result, they react to the circumstances and the events of life, as opposed to being more of proactive versus reactive. So that's the message right there. But if you have 1,440 minutes every single day, the problem is that nobody knows when's the end. Nobody does. And until you really acknowledge that, you're not living in the now. You have to live fully in the now. There's a book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. In the book that I had written, the 365-day challenge, I give a recommended reading list. And the irony is that the number one book on that list is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, because he talks about the fact that nothing exists outside of this moment. Nothing exists outside of right now. The past is gone and tomorrow's promised to nobody. So if you turn on the news, if you go to a news break, if you go to any type of news platform, you will see death everywhere. Car accidents, plane accidents, you name it, trauma, shootings, stabbings. I mean, just all kinds of, there's just death all over the place. But the reality is the fact that none of those people had that in their calendar. Nobody did. So what if you put it upon yourself, whether you're 21 years old, like Jordan had mentioned, okay, or my daughter's 25, or you could take a person who's 51 like myself, and the realizing that I don't know when the end is. Nobody does. But what if you embrace that every single day? And then I'm a huge, huge advocate of keeping a journal, always starting off with keeping your gratitude first and foremost every single day. In the book, The Living Edge by Jeff Wilson, he talks about just write down 3 things, try to make them 3 different things. But see, I get stuck writing the same things. And I'm okay with that because of the fact that they give me reminders. I'm grateful for today. That's always started. Hoy mismo in Spanish. That means this very day. It's because I have it. And there's anybody who goes through trauma in life, you realize that at any point that's gone. Water, the fact that we have clean water, the fact that we have access to food. And, going from the Tibetan book of living and dying, where he talks about the fact that realistically, I'm so tempted to read a quote from that book, but I'm not going to. Anyways, but he talks about the fact that look at a cow in a barn. Okay, look at a cow in a barn. Okay, and this is literally from the book, in terms of, I'm not quoting it exactly, so I'm just giving you a rough translation. He says, you eat and you shit and you sleep. That's the words in the book. So I'm quoting a book here. This isn't me just rambling this off. But don't overcomplicate things. And then the reality is whatever's going on in people's lives, they magnify that, they focus on that, that becomes their reality. And life is always what you make it. And we have compared to 2,000 years ago, compared to 1,000 years ago, compared to 100 years ago, we have tools and resources at our fingertips where we can accomplish literally anything. But get this, we live in one of the richest countries in the world. And you're not free until you're financially free. You have to understand that. And I've said again and again and again, this comes from Bob Proctor, who passed away on the 3rd of February. Okay. Bob Proctor, I got this from him. He talked about the fact there's only 2 ways in life you make money. You trade time for money, you work for it limitless ways, or you make your money work for you. How many people do you know that actually have their money working for them? Now think about that. It's actually disturbing. It's kind of crazy because what would happen if you take the Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, you take his mindset and then you take all the money that you're making. Because think about this, if you have a job and you're working for money, when you invest that time, you never get that time back. And then if you spend the money, you never get that money back. Someone has to embrace this concept. Someone has to get this idea. It's gone. It's gone forever. You never get it back. So we repeat this vicious cycle again and again and again and going through, and then people aren't getting to where they could be. And the reality is where you're at doesn't matter. It's really where you're going. And the context of what I want to talk about today is really absolutely something that I have a burning passion for. It's manifestation. Okay. And I always have a message that I want to pass on. And every call that I do, I have a message that I want to pass on. And the message today is about manifestation. Ultimately, here's what you have to understand. When you set a goal, now remember, this is what I touched on last week. You have a burning desire backed by faith. So almost 100 years ago, Napoleon Hill was interviewing Andrew Carnegie, who came to this country with a nickel, and he became the richest man at that time. And then he gave him a letter of introduction to 500 of the most influential and most successful people, spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, every category. And then he wanted to find out what's the common denominator. Why are their breadlines and other people are succeeding, even though they don't have the background for it? Okay, so he found 13 principles. That comes out of Think and Grow Rich. Okay. And the core message out of that book is you create a burning desire, okay, backed by faith. So what that means is, beyond a shadow of a doubt that I will accomplish this. And that's the beautiful part about the Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, because he ultimately defines the thing that we all know is any worthwhile goal, anything that is significant in your lifetime is broken down to a whole bunch of tiny little victories that you do every single day. So it's a matter of, like this morning, I was listening to Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Okay, so I imagine there's got to be somebody on this call who's never listened to that. Here's a wake-up call for everybody, is the Psycho-Cybernetics was considered the Bible of personal development. I'd be willing to bet maybe 9 out of 10 people on this call never listened to it. Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz. You can get it on Audible. So here's a cool part, is you could subscribe to Audible for like $15 a month. You get 1 credit a month. If I were to buy the audio program, it's like $23, but my subscription's only $15 a month. You get 1 credit. You can use it to buy a $70 program or a $23 program. And then you put that in your earbud. I remember, Immonitier had given a talk a long time ago about the fact that he listened to The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. So here I've already given, in a matter of, I think, about 10 minutes, I've already given references to I don't know how many books and basically audio programs. But the reality is the fact that the greatest law in life, I'm speaking to whoever's listening to me, the greatest law in life is you become the people you associate with and the books you read. You want to know your life is like in 5 years? You become the people you associate with and the books that you read. I've got a ton of respect for Jordan, because I know I had heard rumors of how she's done on NASDAQ this month. And the crazy part is, what if she didn't take the time to learn the stuff? What if she didn't put in a little bit of time day in and day out? Because right now I'm working with my daughter extensively of getting her to where she can really raise the bar and actually set goals to do this. And I'm going to use her as an example, because it's a perfect example in terms of, in her situation, based on where she's at in her life, being 25 years old, she has now motivation now more than ever. And that's what happens. That's where manifestation comes in, to be able to put yourself in a position to where you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. I have just such an insane amount of respect for the people that are 18 years old or 21 years old who are investing time. But here's the breakthrough. This is the message, is ultimately, you don't spend 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day studying this stuff. Can you? Absolutely. I've seen people that become trainers on Go Live that have 18 months experience, because they literally binged on learning the stuff. But here's the crazy part, is for the long haul, if you're looking 3 to 5 years out, you don't have to binge. You literally do something, you commit to it, a burning desire backed by faith. The greatest obstacle to success in adult life is fear of failure, because people look at stuff and they say, well, I can't do that. They look at a big goal. Let's say they want to speak a fluent language. I can't tell you how many times I start up a Spanish conversation with somebody, and they're like, man, I studied this for 4 years. Why are you fluent? and it's like, oh, I never studied it. Basically, I never went to classes for it, but I've put time daily. You can't study for something for 20 years or even 5 years and then not get those results and all of a sudden I have people that are from out of this country that don't think I'm from this country. They're like, no, there's no way, you're too fluent. You got to be from Cuba, or you got to be from Puerto Rico, or from somewhere in Central America. But the point is this: what if you applied that intensity to learning? I'll just use colors as an example because that's a popular one and it's also highly effective. And what if you studied the modules? What if you plugged into the live sessions? Here's the crazy part: you have so many different messengers, you have so many different people to deliver that training. So whether it is basically the early morning sessions where you're dealing with the actual creator, Doc, and learning how he created it, or whether it's the people that come after that. My favorite is Alex. Alex is phenomenal. 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, he goes live. He does like a 25-minute session. Like last night, I watched that and it was gold. I mean, literally what he was talking about, what he was covering about basically looking at the day charts and then working his way backwards. And he's got this posture to him. The kid's 27 years old, but he's got a posture to him because of the fact that he's gotten results and he wants to help other people get those results. So here's the thing that you have to understand: that the core takeaway of today's message is ultimately the fact that when you set a goal, okay, this is all I want you to get out of today. Your time will have been well invested if you get this one message. You have to understand the fact that when you set a goal, okay, and you break it down to what you do on a daily basis, but you set that goal, you will find yourself doing things that you did not do had you not set the goal. My favorite thing to talk about is travel, because I love travel. Having been to 12 different countries, having experienced so much in life, that most people are like, man, I can't do that. I can't afford that. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. But ultimately, trust me, if you set the goal, and if I told people, okay, set up a $300 a month budget, what are they going to say? They're going to say, well, I can't afford that. But what if I just said, listen, why don't you just take $10 today? Forget about yesterday. Tomorrow doesn't exist. Take $10, stick in an envelope, and then write on it travel. Or maybe do $20. Okay. If you did $10, that's $3,650 you'd have sitting in an envelope right now if you started this a year ago. And if you felt like going to Cabo or Cancun or Madrid or Key West or San Francisco or any destination you want to go, you would literally have a budget set up for that, because today is all you ever have. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow's promised to nobody. I promise you, there's not a single person. I would love to find out if all of a sudden all the people that were on this call started that habit. If they just took $10, stuck in an envelope, and then it's gone. You can't just use that for an emergency. The car breaks down, there's plumbing issues. No, it's already spent. You have to see, the subconscious mind does not know the difference between perception and reality. So if somebody offered you a all expense paid airfare, hotel, and everything, and only cost $10, but you had to pay the $10 today, there's not a single person that couldn't come up with that $10. But if you were doing it day in, day out, day in, day out, that would affect a person saying, I'm going to stay a little bit later at work, or they're going to look for other opportunities. They're going to find a way to, that's what manifestation is. That is the core message of today's call. You will do things that you normally wouldn't do. So the idea is you set up an emergency fund. You also pay yourself first. This is critical. I don't care who it is. And I would say 95% of people do not do this. Whatever you're generating in income, 10% of it should never be spent. Because if you're paying the electric bill, if you're paying a phone bill, if you're buying food with it, okay, it's gone. You never get it back. That's why it's called pay yourself first. So whether it goes back to books that are written hundreds of years ago, to even stuff that's been documented from 1,000 to 2,000 years ago, that teaching is old. It goes back a long, long, long time. And ultimately, you have the ability to take something on a day-by-day basis and then accomplish exactly what it is that you want to accomplish. That's basically what you have to do. But I want people fully aware of the fact that when you set a goal, I learned from Brian Tracy, who's probably one of my all-time favorite authors, and audio programs, he's off the charts, okay, that ultimately clarity is power. Write those 3 words down. Clarity is power. So if I make up my mind that I need to weigh X amount, and then I decide There's nothing more powerful than a made up mind. There is absolutely nothing more powerful than a made up mind. A person that believes in himself can conquer a billion who don't. Don't ever forget that. So ultimately, you set a goal. This is what I'm encouraging people to do. But what I would really love to see people do is, whether it's HFX, whether it's FRX, you set up an account where you should have an alarm going off of your phone. 3:45 p.m. Central Standard Time, whatever time zone that is in where you're at. And it should say withdrawal. And if you're not doing a daily withdrawal, you're not creating an income stream. So realistically, I'm shooting for, my target has always been 5% growth. 5% growth. Anything beyond that generates an income stream. And the reality is, I can create more income than most people make on a job. And just by doing that. But the crazy part is, this has been my literally awakening for the last 3 years. Never in my lifetime have I seen an opportunity where a person can generate those types of results, not on a yearly basis, but on a daily basis, through proper risk management. That's the key. Because again, I could do way better than that, but then if the trade goes the wrong way, or if the stop losses aren't set properly, then all of a sudden you're right back where you were at day one. So you go backwards. But the point is, if you keep it conservative and take it one day at a time, there's not a single person who couldn't. You should have a goal. I don't know why you wouldn't. You should have a goal of setting up a 9-figure annual income. Annual income. Now that sounds crazy, but that's basically getting to the point to where you're making about a tenth of what I've seen done on trades. And ultimately it can be done. But here's the thing: you can't go from making $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year, to making $100,000 a year. Okay, because here's what has to happen. And this comes from Psycho Cybernetics by basically Maxwell Maltz. You have to be there mentally first. You will never, and I've heard this from thousands of different sources, okay, that ultimately you will never outgrow your self-esteem. So that's why it is so critically important just to dedicate time daily. And everybody has the time. We have 1,440 minutes. So if I ever go anywhere, if I'm in my car, I'm listening to audio programs, or I'm listening to Spanish, or if I have downtime, I'm reading the book. And even if I don't have downtime, I'm reading the book. It's first things first. That's the mindset. But again, the message that I really, really want to deliver today, that if it reaches one person, I don't care who it is, you have to understand, acknowledge the fact that when you set a goal, you are now going to be doing things that you wouldn't do had you not set the goal. This is critical, because most people forget about the fact that the past doesn't equal the future. They're looking at their goal based on their past performance. So 1 and 1 doesn't make 2. It doesn't add up. But you have to understand that when you literally set a goal and then you accept the fact that this is where I am, you realize that the phrase I am is the most used phrase in the Bible? Maybe somebody didn't know that. I am. Look it up. It's the most used phrase in the Bible. There's a reason for that. So ultimately, when you say I am, and then you leave a blank after that, and you can put a weight goal, you can put a financial goal, you can put a spiritual goal, like I am spiritual goal, I am present. Okay. Living full. That's one of my goals. When I write it down every single day, live fully in the now. And by the way, the first thing that's written in my journal every day, still to this day, is the ability to enjoy life every day is the highest quality you can have. Whose life would that change if they created that habit of writing that down every single day? But when you set the goal, whether it's spiritual, mental, physical, financial, what happens is ultimately you now create activity that you wouldn't do had the goal not set. Which, that being said, there's absolutely no limit to what you can accomplish. You can literally now couple that with the fact that ultimately you can have anything you want if you help enough people get what they want. And that's Zig Ziglar's life philosophy. So again, I'm going to close on that note. That's literally the core. I try to keep these things to 15, 20 minutes because I want to keep everybody's attention, where if you go long, it gets really tough. So ultimately, my message today, everybody should have received it, is when you create a goal and you get this clarity, you will create activity that didn't exist had you not had the goal set. This is what you have to understand. And you owe it to yourself to be able to commit daily to personal development, to studying. If you want to, this is almost sounds insane, But how can a person expect to get consistent results? Let's say we're using the example of trading. Let's say you're using colors, HFX, FRX, whatever it is, if you're not studying it on a daily basis. That goes back to that old philosophy that your calendar speaks so loud, I can't hear a word you're saying. So every single day you do that. But here's what's going to happen. This is what you're going to find out, that ultimately, once you get that clarity, once you grow internally to where you're there mentally, the results will come faster than you can comprehend. The problem is most people are basing what they're doing off their past performance. They're not basing it off of where they are mentally. Try this once. If you've never made a six-figure income, just say, okay, I am a six-figure income earner. And then just repeat the hell out of it. And try stuff like, I like myself. I like myself. You literally build your self-esteem. You create that type of confidence and you grow. And we create our own lives. With anything that we're doing, we create our own destinies. And ultimately, in the end, life is completely what you make it. So if anybody wants to, check out the YouTube, I'm recording these things every single time. I'll post them up on there, and just stick with it. I mean, you have to understand there's 52 weeks in a year. And I'm going to close with this thought. You only need about 13. That's it. You only need about 3 months. There's not a single person who couldn't radically change their life in a way they can't even comprehend in a matter of about 13 weeks. It's about 3 months. That's all it takes. But you and I know that most people 3 months from now will be exactly where they are today. So keep that in mind. Life is what you make it. And any questions, just reach out to me.